Hi everyone, it's Rachel from Don't Crop Me Now. It's the 5th of July and we're going to do a plot tour to see what's growing and how we're getting on. So we started on plot 5B and we now have the greenhouse planted up with our chilli plants. And I have done this new sign, the chilli house. It's actually looking really good in there. In the hot weather, this is getting up to about 45 degrees. So chilies love that heat, so I'm really hoping that it will continue to thrive. And you can see we've got these long chilies in here which are doing amazingly. Have a look at some of those. So I'm really happy with those. They're not all long chilies, there's a few different types in here, but we've got quite a few of the long chilli plants. So now if we go on to plot 5B itself. So this is the newest half plot that we've taken on. There's not much in the cold frames because most of it has been planted out. There's a few leek plants there, which I will use as a second crop when something comes out. And there's a few different flowering plants there, some lavender and a few other things, which I will put in somewhere. And one little tiny fig tree that I grew from a cutting. So if we have a look around the fruit trees on here, this is the grafted fruit tree that Anthony was working on, the multi-grafted fruit tree. So what we've done is we've pruned it down to take off a lot of the growth that is not the new wood that we have grafted on. So that's why it looks a bit smaller. But we do have, there's some actual eating apples that are growing. We might even be able to eat them. They are sunset, so I wasn't expecting that to happen. So that's not doing too badly. Pleased with that one. The pear tree is looking okay. Quite a lot of small pears on there. And then if we look at the main beds on 5B. So courgettes are just about starting to take off. That one on the left clearly isn't a courgette, it's some sort of squash, but that's fine. There's quite a bit of mare's tail in this plot, so I have to keep on pulling that out. We've got the onions, and the ones that are towards this side are the overwintering onions, the ones that are starting to fall over. So they should be ready pretty soon. They're looking pretty good. And on the back, we've got some banana shallots. I did a little shorts video about those. I'm actually really happy about them. We've never grown them before. We have had a crazy crop of strawberries. And if I have a quick look in there, there's still absolutely loads. I just haven't had a chance to pick them because of the wet weather. So I do need to do that this week. So let's just have a quick look. But you can see here, still absolutely full of strawberries, this bed. It needs picking again. And then most of the crops that we've put in are really starting to fill out. So the Swedes there are looking good. We have planted out the leeks, covered in netting to stop the leek moth, but again they're starting to thicken out, so they're looking pretty good. Parsnips are certainly growing now, so we should get some parsnips, and the sweet peas are doing a brilliant display. And then the rest of this, except from the beetroot there, and there's a few extra kohlrabi, is in the main the beans for drying. So they're looking really good. All doing well. Even the beetroot are starting to fill out. These ones at the end, look, there's actually some beetroot there, which is good. That row at the end actually went in a little bit earlier than the rest of it, so would expect them to crop a bit earlier. And then the last thing we've got in on 5B is the sweet potato plants, which is a bit of an experiment in this poly house, but they are growing for certain. So we'll see if we get any crops from them. Some of the beans are starting to flower actually. Look at these butter beans. These are our saved butter beans, do really well every single year. And look at that. Really good. So that is plot 5B. Here we are over on plot 4, and quite a lot has been going on plot 4. you might have seen some of our other videos, we have just about finished the summer house, which is looking brilliant. Really, really, really happy about that. We've got the potato bed here, the early potatoes we've just started harvesting. We've had the second bucket today. So the supports have worked pretty well. Obviously, where we've taken some of these pots out, those ones at the back are not quite so well supported. I think ideally it would be better if the size of the mesh was a little bit bigger than it is, because there's a few of the potato hulls that sort of grow outside where the netting support is. But it's much better. It's much better than any support we've ever had before. So I'm still pleased with that. And you can see where we've got the double row, they're still really well supported. The flowers are starting to come up around the pergola, which is nice. Got lots going on in this little salad bed. I've just taken some plants, lettuce plants that were just going to seed out, and sowed a few more seeds in here. And those little dwarf sunflowers actually look really nice as well. Last weekend we made a top for this carrot bed to protect against carrot fly, so that's looking all right. One thing I have noticed is we have definitely got less apples on this bramley tree than we normally have. It's normally absolutely covered, and it's not covered really. There are apples on it, like if you look in there, there's some apples, but not as many as we normally get. To be honest, that's not necessarily a bad thing, because I've still got a freezer full of apples, so I shouldn't be too upset about that. But it must have just been the time of the wet weather or the cold weather when the blossoms were setting. Sunflowers are not bad. They're about 6 foot so far. We've not picked the garlic, and some of it is starting to fall over, so I'm a bit worried about those ones in the middle, that they maybe have got a bit of white rot or something. So we will sometime this week get those out. The ones on the right side you can see are looking a lot better, and in between there we have got some beetroot plants that are just to fill the bed out once the garlics come out, and I will fill those gaps from the garlic with more beetroot, so that'll become a beetroot bed. Pond's looking quite cute. Can actually see the little lily pads starting to grow there, so I'm pleased about that. And the little rock garden, the cosmos is coming up now, so that should be quite a nice display later in summer. So if you look at the rest of the plot, lavender is looking really good, and the dahlias behind them are looking well supported as well. This new frame structure that Anthony and his friend Mark built, I'm quite pleased with that actually. I think that's going to do the job. So, as you can see, as that one's starting to grow, you're not really going to see the frame structure. That's the idea once the plants get bigger. The celeriac is just about starting to take off. To be honest, this needs a lot of water, and it's just been so dry. So fingers crossed that will start picking up better now. And there's some kohlrabi in there, which is looking all right. Not ready yet, but looking okay. The rhubarb looks like it's taken a bit of a battering. That is because a huge amount was picked and donated to someone today for making wine for them. So that's why that's looking a bit more empty. I'm hoping now it's had that good harvest, the rain can get in better, and then I'm sure in another 2 weeks that's going to be huge again. I did notice that there seems to be some sort of wasp nest on that corner of the rhubarb, so we need to be a bit careful about that. I'm not a fan of wasps in general. I know they've got a good place in the ecosystem, but I'm a little bit scared of them. The chard's looking healthy. Have a look there, I haven't picked any of that yet. And then the asparagus. You know what? The bees absolutely love these asparagus ferns and the little tiny yellow flowers on them. So I'm actually really pleased about that. They've all started to flop everywhere, so I'm just going to leave them as they are for now. Carrots in these tubs look good. So they should be nearly ready soon, I should think. And then we've got more potatoes here. These butternut squash. They are a bit of a late coming to the party, butternut squash generally, but obviously they're still quite small. Fingers crossed they will climb this frame and we will get some this year. even if they're small like the ones we got last year. Cabbage bed is not doing bad in there, so that's a mixture of summer cabbages. Some of those ones in the middle are actually the giant cabbages, just planted at a normal spacing just because I had some plants left over, and then the ones at the back are red cabbages. The beans again here are doing really well. One thing that really is interesting is these borlotti beans I put direct in the ground because we just got really poor germination, which we never normally have a problem with. And you know what? They are just about the same stage as most of the other beans that I grew 8 weeks earlier from seed in modules. So you know what? With some of these crops, it's worth just putting them in at the end. It's a lot less hassle and they look just as good. Lots of flowers on these dwarf runner beans here. There's a little bee there, which is nice. There we go. So we should be getting some beans. This winter squash and pumpkin bed is starting to sprawl a lot, which is what you expect. I am just going to let this go where it wants to go, really. I will prune it back a little bit, but there's only, there was 3 plants I think in there, but they do get really, really big. This brassica bed, which is, there's a few cabbages at this end, but other than that it is calabrese and cauliflower, is looking really good actually. I think because I've got a double layer of this enviromesh over, it works quite well as a bit of shading to keep the sun off, because these crops just love to go to seed. We had one that went to seed, which I've pulled out, and the rest actually look really good. So I'm really hopeful they will heart up really well. So I didn't mean to have a double layer of enviromesh. It was just because the pieces of enviromesh I actually had were so big and I didn't want to cut them. So I ended up pulling one over from the left side and one over from the right side, giving this double layer. And it's actually worked really well. So that's something to consider actually, keeping on doing that. Can't see any forming yet, but I think it's actually really promising that. I am pretty hopeful we are going to get some cauliflowers. Another potato bed, again really big there. Oh look, pumpkin. So we are going to get some pumpkins. Got loads of this kale. This is curly kale and black kale. So we need to start eating some of this. I've actually ordered some more plants from CornishCabbagPlants.com, which is a really good supplier if you're looking at buying plants online. So when I start harvesting other crops, I'm going to stick these autumn and winter various types of brassicas in. So I need to start eating that kale because I'm going to have a load more. Brussels are looking really good. Pretty well supported actually. I haven't tied them into those canes. Maybe I should take them off this weekend and tie them in, but they're all looking pretty upright. So that's good. Broad beans. There we go. Not quite ready yet, but they're not far off. We did get a little bit of black fly on these beans, but I pinched the tops out and sprayed them in with a little bit of soapy water, and it seems to have done the trick. Doesn't seem to be too much of a problem there. And one of the major successes we seem to be having so far is these shallots and giant onions. They're absolute beasts. So these shallots were saved from our saved plants from last year. And look, we're going to be shallotted out because there's another bed there. And they're looking really good. And these giant onions are giant. Look at the size of them. I'm just starting to bulb out, but I'm actually really, really pleased about that because it's only a bit of an experiment. And if you look at these ones here, they're crazy. They're like the size, the width of a normal onion already, and they're only just starting to bulb out. So we'll see what happens to them. Our carrot bed, we did weed around here, and there's not a lot of carrots in there. So we talked about on our last tour that we're going to get rid of this bed. I think we are. I don't mean completely get rid of the bed. I mean take the frame out and use it for something other than carrots next year. There's just a little herb bed in the middle. Parsley's looking good. Coriander is going to seed in the main. And I haven't put any basil out yet because it's been really cold. So I might put it out and put some plastic over it or something just to see, because I've got loads and loads of plants. This is my giant cabbage. You know what? It's much bigger than the ones that are close together. It's got quite a lot of leaves on it. I'm not expecting it to be like a monster, but you know what? It's certainly a large cabbage, I think it's so. And that has got so much manure underneath it. I really hope that it does heart up really well. It's got an entire bed to itself, so it deserves to give me something. Flower bed is looking all right too. I'll just pop right round the other side of pot 4. There were a couple of things I think we didn't quite point out. Got raspberries here. They're doing all right. You see some's just set in there now. I need to tie these in to all these wires, which I never remember to do on time. So I'm going to make a big effort to try and do that quite soon, so they don't end up too wild. And from this side, you can see we've got a few dahlias. They're little, like a pom-pom, purple pom-pom, small one, which is really nice. Pleased about that. And the Jerusalem artichoke, which is in a very large pot, is really enjoying the rain as well. And that is just the other side of plot 4 and the summer house in there. So this is plot 2B, which has got the fruit cage, some fruit trees and the new polytunnel on the back. So we've done a separate tour of the polytunnel, so I'm not going to spend long in here. We'll just have a quick look. I do want to point out some of our water collection, which, you know what, is collecting the water really well. But because there's loads of pigeons that sit in that tree and have a good poop on top of our polytunnel, then it's a bit mosquito-y in here really, which isn't ideal. But it's probably quite nutritious, that water. So I have been watering the polytunnel with that. And we've also got collection on this side, which is completely full. We haven't actually used any of this water yet. See there? Can we see the line? Not really. It's completely right to the top. There we go, busting out. So I need to just make a hole on there and we can start using that water. The plan is to put an automatic waterer on a timer that goes underneath into the polytunnel. So let's have a quick look in the polytunnel. Looking pretty good in here. Very green anyway, and the sweet corn looks great. So have a look at that separate video if you want to have a look at the polytunnel in more detail. And then on to 5B, which is the fruit plot. I don't think it's going to be an amazing year for apples this year because, again, that apple tree has not got that much on it, and I think it must have just been the time when the blossoms came out. This little one has. This is like a Cox type variety. That's got apples on it. And we've got a few little pears on this pear tree. There. That's the first year that we've had pears on that. The fig, however, looks brilliant. This is absolutely covered in fruit. And we do have a few cherries on the cherry tree, although I'm not expecting to get those. There's one there. The birds will really have them. I'll leave them for the birds because there's not many. I have to decide what I'm going to do with this cherry tree. I might try and fan it or something like that so it grows along the side. I don't know really. needs to stay of some sort of reasonable size, and because of where it is, we have to squeeze the IBC water tank in, so it's not in the best place. But if you have a quick look at these, looking really good. Even the little fig has got a few on. Let's have a look in the fruit cage. I think I am going to get a load of slabs and slab all in here this winter, just to make it look a little bit better. I don't really like the look of this black plastic, but I just put it down because I didn't want to be dealing with too many weeds because of the area we've got. But it's looking productive in here. If you look at these blueberries, absolutely loads of blueberries. This plant, not so many actually, hardly any on that, but the other ones, again, there's loads there. So they're doing really well. This is a new plum tree anyway, so I wouldn't expect to have anything on that, but it's alive, so that's good. Black currants, I've got quite a few on. These were moved last year and really heavily pruned, so I wasn't expecting to get much of a crop. But you know what, look, there we go. They have got berries on. This plum tree was moved as well, and it doesn't look like it's got... It did set plums for certain, but I think it's dropped them all. Oh well. I'm sure next year it will catch up. I put this in here because the pigeons like to just strip it. What has done amazing is these red currants though. The yields are just literally insane. I mean, look at this. Just a few red currants. And the gooseberries are looking good too. So there's the pink gooseberries there, and then some green gooseberries on the back. So overall, it's all looking pretty good in here. So if you've enjoyed our tour of our plot today, please like, comment and subscribe to our channel. It'll only take you a minute, but it makes a really big difference for us. Take care everyone. Bye.